Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started. In the world of professional wrestling, the storyline often weaves a rich tapestry of rivalries, betrayals, and unexpected alliances. For Roman Reigns, the reigning tribal chief of the Bloodline, the landscape has shifted dramatically. After a shocking defeat in a highly anticipated gimmick match against a formidable opponent, the winds of change are blowing, forcing him to confront an uncomfortable reality. Solo Sikoa, his younger cousin and member of the Bloodline, may soon become the new tribal chief. As WWE analysts dissected the fallout from the match, one sentiment echoed throughout the wrestling community: Roman Reigns may have to acknowledge Solo Sikoa as his rightful leader. The match, set to showcase the legacy of the Bloodline, was billed as a defining moment for Reigns, who has dominated the WWE landscape for years. However, an unexpected twist in the narrative has left fans buzzing with speculation. The match took place at WWE's latest pay-per-view event, where Reigns faced off against a rising star, known for his technical prowess and undeniable charisma. The stakes were high. If Reigns lost, he would have to concede the title of Tribal Chief, a title he has held with pride since his return to the ring in 2020. The anticipation was palpable as fans filled the arena, chanting Reigns' name while simultaneously wondering if they might witness a changing of the guard. As the match unfolded, it became evident that Reigns was not in his usual form. The intensity and aggression that had become his trademark were noticeably absent. Sikoa, who had been a loyal enforcer for Reigns, stood at ringside, watching closely, his expression a mix of concern and anticipation. The match culminated in a stunning finish that saw Reigns tapping out, sending shockwaves through the audience and shaking the very foundation of the Bloodline. In the aftermath, the atmosphere backstage was electric with speculation. As Reigns stepped out of the ring, the gravity of his defeat weighed heavily on him. The cameras captured the moment he locked eyes with Sikoa, who stood ready to offer support but was instead met with a mixture of frustration and disbelief from his cousin. Roman's mind raced as he contemplated the implications of this loss and the possibility that his reign as tribal chief was nearing its end. WWE analyst and former champion Jason Michaels weighed in on the situation during a live broadcast, stating, "This loss could change everything for Roman. He's been the tribal chief for so long, but if Solo Sikoa continues to rise, Roman may have no choice but to acknowledge him. It's a brutal business, and the fans love a good power struggle." The idea that Reigns might have to step aside is not just fan speculation, it's a reality that could play out in the weeks leading to the next major pay-per-view event. The chemistry between Reigns and Sikoa has been palpable, but a line has now been drawn in the sand. Reigns must either reaffirm his dominance or recognize Sikoa's growing influence and prowess. The tension between the two cousins came to a head on the next episode of WWE SmackDown, where Roman Reigns confronted Sikoa in the ring. The segment was emotionally charged as Reigns unleashed his frustrations, questioning Sikoa's loyalty and whether he had been training to replace him all along. "I'm the tribal chief. This is my legacy, and you will never take that from me," he roared, the intensity of his voice reverberating through the arena. Sikoa, calm yet resolute, stood his ground. "I'm not trying to take anything from you, Roman. I'm trying to earn my place beside you. But maybe it's time you acknowledge the truth: the Bloodline needs a leader who can carry us into the future." The statement hung in the air, striking a chord with the audience and igniting a fiery debate among wrestling fans. As the storyline progressed, the narrative began to draw parallels to other historical moments in wrestling. The possibility of Reigns having to pass the torch to a younger star has brought comparisons to legends like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, who faced similar crossroads in their careers. Reigns, who has always worn the mantle of leadership with pride, now finds himself at a critical juncture. In the weeks leading to the next pay-per-view, WWE programming focused on Sikoa's increasing prominence, showcasing his in-ring abilities and charisma. He was given high-profile matches and moments to solidify his status as a top contender. Meanwhile, Reigns was portrayed as increasingly paranoid, wrestling with the fear of losing not only his title but also the respect and admiration of his family and fans. The build-up reached a fever pitch at the go-home show before the pay-per-view. Reigns, desperate to maintain his position, set up a tag team match where he teamed with Sikoa against two of the company's top heels. The match was a microcosm of their relationship. Reigns dominated early on but faltered when it mattered most, leaving Sikoa to pick up the pieces. The moment encapsulated the essence of their rivalry. Reigns' unwillingness to share the spotlight contrasted with Sikoa's determination to rise. The match ended with Sikoa pinning one of the opponents, but as the crowd cheered, the tension between the cousins remained palpable. Reigns' expression was a mix of pride and resentment, leaving the audience questioning whether he would ultimately acknowledge Sikoa as the next tribal chief. As the pay-per-view approached, speculation reached a boiling point. Fans were eager to see if Reigns would bend the knee or assert his dominance once more. The storyline of Reigns potentially having to acknowledge Sikoa as his tribal chief has captivated audiences, reinvigorating the Bloodline saga with fresh stakes and drama. The match itself promised to be explosive, with the very foundations of the Bloodline hanging in the balance. Would Reigns solidify his legacy as the undisputed tribal chief, or would he have to accept a new era under Sikoa's leadership? In the world of WWE, where the lines between reality and fiction often blur, one thing remains certain: the story of the Bloodline is far from over, and the next chapter could change the landscape of professional wrestling forever. The Bloodline is currently in the midst of a civil war on WWE SmackDown. However, WWE analyst Sam Roberts recently suggested the heel faction might not exist by the end of the ongoing civil war. Following Reigns' loss at WrestleMania 40, Solo Sikoa took control of the group. He added Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, and Jacob Fatu and eliminated Jimmy Uso and Paul Heyman. The original tribal chief later returned to go after Sikoa and fight for the family's leadership. Jimmy also made his comeback to side with Reigns. The two now seemingly seek to reunite with Jey Uso, as the former undisputed WWE champion is expected to reunite the OG Bloodline to fight Sikoa's faction. On his Not Sam Wrestling podcast, Sam Roberts addressed the future of the Bloodline, claiming the faction may disband after the current civil war ends. "I think that there's a possibility that the Bloodline gets rebuilt for the purpose of taking out this new Bloodline. And then once that happens and everybody falls in line, I don't know that the Bloodline exists as a faction anymore and instead just kinda spreads its wings. And Roman's top guy here, and Jay's a top guy here. Maybe Solo finds his next lane. Maybe Jimmy finds his next lane. But I think the Bloodline becomes whatever the Bloodline becomes next, if that makes sense," he said. 1 hour 16 minutes and 21 seconds to 1 hour 16 minutes and 55 seconds, WWE analyst thinks Roman Reigns might face Solo Sikoa in a tribal combat match. In the same episode of his Not Sam Wrestling podcast, Sam Roberts commented on a fan's suggestion to have Roman Reigns go head-to-head with Solo Sikoa in a tribal combat match. While the fan proposed to have Reigns join the new Bloodline and obey Sikoa's orders if the OTC lost, the WWE analyst disapproved of the idea. Instead, Roberts claimed the loser of the potential square-off could be forced to acknowledge the other as his tribal chief. "I think there is an idea where there's a tribal combat match, where the winner has to get acknowledged by the loser. And if Roman loses, he has to acknowledge Solo Sikoa as his tribal chief. But the idea of, and you have to do whatever I say, that's dumb," he said. The Raw Talk host also addressed the potential return of Paul Heyman. He claimed it could happen after the rumored Bloodline vs. Bloodline War Games match at Survivor Series. Roman Reigns, Jimmy and Jey Uso's new name seemingly confirmed by WWE, while Roman Reigns, Jimmy, and Jey Uso are yet to align again. WWE already has a name in mind for the trio. The company gave a new name to the three Samoans on their official YouTube channel following the brief family moment together on SmackDown's latest edition. The OTC and Big Jim have not been able to match the Bloodline's numbers game and have suffered multiple beatdowns. Jimmy iterated to Roman Reigns that they need help, hinting at bringing Jey back into the fold. However, the OTC refused to take help from the Intercontinental Champion. Jey also did not entertain his twin brother when he showed up on Raw last week. The three founding members of the Bloodline shared a segment for the first time in many months on SmackDown after Jey Uso's war of words with Solo Sikoa earlier. However, the tension between Roman Reigns and the Yeetman was still visible, meaning we will have to wait a while to see them back on the same page. Meanwhile, WWE's YouTube channel posted a clip of the reunion, calling them the OG Bloodline, which indicates that the trio could be going by a new name upon their inevitable reunion, while Solo's group will keep the Bloodline name in the predicted Civil War. WWE legend believes Roman Reigns will eventually apologize to Jey Uso. Jey Uso suffered a lot during his time with the Bloodline and eventually ended up leaving the group. While the Yeetman has been doing great on his own, his former faction members have found themselves outnumbered against the new iteration of the heel faction and quite clearly need his help. However, there is still tension between the Intercontinental Champion and Roman Reigns. Nonetheless, WWE legend Mark Henry believes that the duo will be back on the same page after Reigns accepts his past actions and apologizes to his cousin. The apology, should come. Roman will see that, if Emma go forward, that's what's gonna have to happen, he said. Jey Uso was present on SmackDown this past Friday where he confronted Solo Sikoa for associating with the Tongans and Jacob Fatu. He also came face-to-face with Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso where the OTC told him that he was proud of him. However, the Intercontinental Champion did not indulge in further talks and left the arena. Roman Reigns may be forced to acknowledge Solo Sikoa as his tribal chief, says WWE analyst. After losing potential gimmick match, Roman Reigns is currently engaged in a heated rivalry with Solo Sikoa on WWE SmackDown. A WWE analyst recently claimed Reigns might be forced to acknowledge his cousin after losing a potential gimmick match against him. Last Friday, the original tribal chief confronted Sikoa about his desire to reunite the family, telling him that he would do anything to fix their problems. However, the former NXT North American champion demanded that his former leader acknowledge him as his tribal chief, which the latter refused. On his Not Sam Wrestling podcast, analyst Sam Roberts addressed a fan's suggestion to have Reigns join the new Bloodline and follow Sikoa's orders if he loses a potential tribal combat match against the latter. The Raw Talk host claimed Reigns having to obey Sikoa should not happen. However, the former undisputed WWE champion may have to acknowledge Sikoa as the tribal chief if he loses the potential square-off. I think there is an idea where there's a tribal combat match where the winner has to get acknowledged by the loser. And if Roman loses, he has to acknowledge Solo Sikoa as his tribal chief. But the idea of, and you have to do whatever I say, that's dumb, he said. 1 hour 13 minutes and 2 seconds to 1 hour 13 minutes and 17 seconds. WWE legend thinks Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns will eventually reunite. On the Busted Open podcast, WWE Hall of Famer Mark Henry discussed the future of the Bloodline storyline. He suggested The Rock could return and turn Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, and Jacob Fatu on Solo Sikoa, leading the latter to turn babyface and reunite with Roman Reigns and the Usos. The World's Strongest Man predicted that the story would end with Sikoa and Reigns back together. I'm real cautious about looking at where Solo is gonna go with this because I know that the end is him back with Roman, back with Jimmy and Jey, he said. Many currently expect Reigns to reunite the original Bloodline to fight Sikoa's group at Survivor Series. After Jimmy Uso returned to rejoin forces with the original tribal chief, the two are seemingly interested in getting Jey Uso's help. Mark Henry recently claimed Reigns would have to make an unexpected move to reconcile with the Intercontinental Champion. In the world of professional wrestling, few factions have left as indelible a mark as the Bloodline. Comprising Roman Reigns, the Usos, Jimmy and Jey Uso, and Solo Sikoa, this powerhouse group has dominated WWE storylines and held multiple championships. However, recent events have led many analysts, including a leading WWE analyst, to speculate that the Bloodline may be on the verge of disbanding, a development that could shake the very foundations of WWE. As the latest episode of SmackDown approached, the atmosphere backstage was thick with tension. Rumors had circulated that Roman Reigns, the faction's leader, was involved in a heated dispute with WWE executives regarding his next title defense and the direction of his character. Reigns had always been the focal point of the Bloodline's dominance, but as he prepared for a monumental showdown against an emerging rival, the stakes had never been higher. Analysts pointed out that Reigns' recent public comments had suggested a shift in his mindset. "I've carried this company on my back for years. Maybe it's time for a new chapter, for me and the Bloodline," he had stated in a press conference. Such a statement could signal his desire to break away from the faction that had elevated his status but also placed a tremendous burden on his shoulders. As the weeks passed, tensions within the Bloodline became palpable. Solo Sikoa had emerged as a formidable force in his own right, often questioning the necessity of Reigns' leadership. Jey Uso, fresh off a personal crisis involving his brother, struggled to maintain his loyalty to a faction that seemed to be tearing at the seams. Meanwhile, Jimmy Uso watched in silence, aware that the once unbreakable bond between them was fraying. WWE analyst Mark Anderson elaborated on the potential disbandment, stating, "Roman Reigns has reached a breaking point. His pursuit of greatness may lead him to believe that he no longer needs the Bloodline." With Solo Sikoa asserting himself and the Usos grappling with their own identities, the tension could erupt at any moment. This came to a head during a pivotal SmackDown episode where the Bloodline was set to face a formidable tag team in a main event. As the match unfolded, it became clear that the cohesion that had characterized their earlier victories was absent. Reigns, seemingly distracted, miscommunicated with Sikoa, leading to a critical moment where the opponent capitalized, allowing the Usos to be isolated in the ring. After the match, which ended in an unexpected loss for the Bloodline, tensions boiled over. In the locker room, voices were raised. "You think you can just do whatever you want?" Jey snapped at Roman, his frustration evident. "We're supposed to be a unit, not a stepping stone for you." Roman's expression hardened, and he retorted, "You think I'm the problem? I've been carrying this weight for too long. You need to step up or step aside." Solo watched the exchange with an unreadable expression. As the youngest member of the Bloodline, he had long admired Reigns but began to question his role in the faction. The desire for individual glory began to simmer beneath the surface, raising the prospect of a shocking betrayal. The culmination of these tensions came the following week when Reigns was scheduled for a promo segment that could potentially change everything. Fans anticipated a powerful message, but what they got instead was a startling revelation. Standing in the ring, the Universal Champion looked out at the crowd, his gaze unwavering. "This is my yard," he declared, before pausing, a contemplative look crossing his face. "But maybe it's time I walk this path alone. The Bloodline has been my strength, but I can't allow it to hold me back anymore." Gasps echoed through the arena as Reigns hinted at a separation from the Bloodline. The Usos and Sikoa, watching from the entrance ramp, exchanged shocked glances. The camera zoomed in on their expressions. Hurt, confusion, and anger played out vividly. As the show continued, the fallout from Reigns' declaration was palpable. Social media exploded with speculation. Fans were divided. Some believed this was a necessary evolution for Reigns, while others lamented the potential end of an era. "The Bloodline has been synonymous with dominance in WWE," one fan tweeted. "If they break up, what happens to the legacy they built together?" In the weeks that followed, the Bloodline faced numerous challenges, both in and out of the ring. The Usos wrestled with their loyalty, torn between standing by their cousin or carving their own paths. Sikoa, seeking to assert his individuality, took on solo matches, showcasing his skills and drawing the attention of both fans and management. As the tension escalated, the possibility of a climactic showdown loomed. Many speculated that the faction's disbandment might culminate in a high-stakes match, perhaps at a major pay-per-view event like Survivor Series or WrestleMania. Analysts suggested a potential storyline where Reigns would defend his title against the united Usos and Sikoa, with the added stakes of losing the faction's legacy hanging in the balance. Finally, the day arrived, and the atmosphere in the arena was electric. The main event promised to be a turning point, not only for Reigns but for all members of the Bloodline. As they entered the ring, the contrast between the past and present was striking. The once unified front now stood divided, with each member poised to prove their worth. The match unfolded with intense back-and-forth action, highlighting the unique skills each member brought to the table. The crowd was split, cheering for their favorites while holding their breath for what felt like a monumental clash. As the climax approached, tensions boiled over, and a pivotal moment occurred. Reigns found himself in a precarious position, with Jey and Jimmy poised to strike. In a stunning turn, instead of delivering a superkick, Jey hesitated, looking into Reigns' eyes, searching for the bond they once shared. The moment felt like an eternity before he ultimately turned and landed a blow on Sikoa, sparking chaos. The match ended in a shocking disqualification, with all members of the Bloodline fighting in a frenzied brawl. In the aftermath, it became clear that the Bloodline was irrevocably changed. As the dust settled, fans and analysts were left to ponder the future of each member. Would Reigns continue to carve out his legacy alone? Could the Usos reconcile their loyalty while pursuing their individual paths? And what of Sikoa, who now stood at a crossroads, having tasted the thrill of independence? In the days following the tumultuous events, the wrestling world buzzed with speculation and excitement. The Bloodline had delivered one last explosive chapter, leaving an open door for new storylines and rivalries to unfold. While the faction may have fractured, its legacy would endure, forever etched in the annals of WWE history. The question now remained, where would each member's journey take them next? In a hushed corner of the WWE universe, anticipation buzzed like electricity as fans speculated about the evolution of their beloved Samoan wrestlers, the Usos. After months of tension and uncertainty, it seemed that the long-awaited confirmation of a new name was finally within reach, sending ripples of excitement through social media and the WWE community. It all began when Roman Reigns, the tribal chief and undisputed champion, stood tall in the center of the ring on the latest episode of SmackDown. He had just retained his title in a brutal contest against a rising star, showcasing his dominance over the WWE landscape. As the crowd roared, Roman's gaze shifted to the entrance ramp. The familiar music hit, and the arena erupted as Jimmy and Jey Uso made their way down, a sense of unity radiating from them. They had been estranged for some time, their tumultuous relationship marked by rivalry and misunderstandings, but tonight felt different. The Usos had endured their share of hardships, particularly in the wake of Jey's earlier betrayal and subsequent return to the fold. But now, they were ready to reclaim their legacy, ready to ride the wave of familial loyalty and brotherhood. As they joined Roman in the ring, the trio looked powerful, a force that could redefine the tag team division and the very fabric of WWE. Together, we are not just the Bloodline, Roman proclaimed, his voice commanding as he held the mic tightly in his grip. Tonight, we are reborn. From this moment forward, we are, he paused for dramatic effect, the crowd leaning in, eager to hear what was to come next. The Samoan Dynasty. The audience erupted in applause, a mixture of cheers and excitement flooding the arena. The name resonated like a battle cry, a powerful statement that acknowledged their heritage and the legacy they were building together. The Samoan dynasty embodied strength, tradition, and the unbreakable bond of brotherhood that had defined the family for generations. In the weeks that followed, the Usos embraced their new identity. They revamped their ring gear, incorporating traditional Samoan elements that paid homage to their roots while modernizing their look to reflect their evolution. Fans took notice. Social media was ablaze with hashtags celebrating the Samoan dynasty. Merchandise sales skyrocketed as supporters clamored for shirts, hats, and posters adorned with the new name. Behind the scenes, the change stirred a wave of excitement. WWE's creative team quickly seized the momentum. They envisioned storylines that would position the Samoan dynasty at the forefront of the tag team division, ready to challenge anyone who dared to oppose them. The Usos would not only be a force to be reckoned with, but would also serve as role models for the younger generation, showcasing the importance of family, loyalty, and respect. On one particularly electrifying episode of SmackDown, the Samoan Dynasty found themselves in a heated confrontation with the reigning tag team champions, The New Day. The champions, known for their high-energy antics and positivity, were not prepared for the onslaught that the newly minted Samoan Dynasty would unleash. "Look at you two," Jimmy said, his voice dripping with sarcasm as he and Jey stood face-to-face with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. "You think your silly games can stand up to the legacy we're building? This is our time." Jey stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "You've had your fun, but now it's time for the Samoan Dynasty to show you what real power looks like." Tensions flared, and the match was set. The audience could feel the stakes rise as the two teams prepared for a clash that would determine the future of the tag team division. The Samoan Dynasty, driven by passion and a shared purpose, entered the ring with the weight of their legacy on their shoulders. The match was a display of athleticism, storytelling, and raw emotion. Kofi and Woods fought valiantly, but the chemistry between Jimmy and Jey was undeniable. They seamlessly executed their signature moves, the crowd rallying behind them, chanting USO. USO. The energy was palpable, and the narrative was clear. The Samoan Dynasty was not merely a name, it was a force poised to reclaim their rightful place in WWE. As the match reached its climax, the Usos connected with their devastating double-team finisher, the 1D, leaving Kofi reeling. Jey went for the pin, the referee's hand hitting the mat 3 times, and the arena erupted in jubilation. The Samoan Dynasty had captured the tag team titles, marking the beginning of a new era. In the weeks that followed, Roman Reigns watched proudly as his cousins dominated the tag team scene. They defended their titles against a barrage of challengers, solidifying their reputation as a powerhouse duo. Each victory further cemented the identity of the Samoan Dynasty, and they became known not only for their athletic prowess but also for their charisma and connection with the audience. Yet, with great power came new challenges. The Samoan Dynasty soon found themselves targeted by a coalition of rivals, including their former allies, the Bloodline, and a group of new talent eager to make their mark. Tensions grew as jealousy simmered, leading to a dramatic showdown that would test the very bonds of brotherhood. In a gripping episode of SmackDown, the rival factions faced off in a high-stakes 8-man tag team match. As the chaos unfolded, the air was thick with tension. Jimmy and Jey fought valiantly alongside Roman, their movements synchronized as they executed flawless combinations of strikes and high-flying maneuvers. But the pressure was mounting, and the question loomed, could the Samoan Dynasty withstand the onslaught of their former allies? The climax of the match approached as Roman found himself cornered, outnumbered by 2 of their fiercest rivals. Just when it seemed defeat was imminent, Jimmy and Jey burst onto the scene, launching a relentless attack that turned the tide. With a flurry of kicks and punches, they cleared the ring, allowing Roman to regain his footing. As the dust settled and victory was within reach, Roman stood tall, flanked by his cousins. In that moment, the significance of the Samoan Dynasty echoed through the arena. They were more than just a name, they were a brotherhood, a legacy that transcended time. Together, they had forged a new path, one that honored their heritage while carving out their future. As they celebrated in the ring, the audience chanted their new name, a fitting tribute to their journey. The Samoan Dynasty had risen, and with it, the promise of a thrilling chapter in WWE history. The era of the Samoan Dynasty had begun, and it was a force that would shape the landscape of professional wrestling for years to come.